Welcome back. We're at Act 3. I always try to make these short, but for whatever reason, I get really excited about talking. Well, not for whatever reason. I love Macbeth, so that's why I get really excited. So I guess my goal is to try and do this in one video, but I might have to split it up again because, again, love Macbeth, talk about it all the time. So, where we last left off, the two princes had run away. Ross and the old man were talking about how things are weird. Macduff has gone to Fife. He doesn't want to see Macbeth crowned king, which tells us that he probably doesn't trust him. So, Act 3, Scene 1. Here we are. Boo, 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 boo. We start with Banquo. He's on stage by himself. He's talking about how everything has changed now that Macbeth is king. He says, you have it all. You are Cawdor, Glom, and now king. And he says, I think some weird things have happened. I don't know how you managed to have this happen for you, and I don't necessarily trust that you didn't have a bad, or you didn't do something bad to make it happen. Macbeth comes in, Lady Macbeth comes in, and they're just talking about this banquet that they're going to have tonight to celebrate Macbeth being crowned king. And Macbeth keeps saying to Banquo, don't miss it. But he also keeps asking, he says, are you going riding this afternoon? And he asks that 3 times. He said, are you riding far? And he says, when will you return? Is Fleance coming with you? So although he kind of pretends that he cares that Banquo will be at the banquet, he is more concerned with where Banquo is going on his little afternoon jaunt. And Banquo says, yes, I'll be there. Stop freaking out. Don't worry. And then so Macbeth sends him off his way. So then we have a really important soliloquy with Macbeth. And he says, to be thus is nothing, but to be safely thus. Our fears in Banquo stick deep, and in his royalty of nature reigns that which would be feared. So essentially what he's saying is, thus, I am now the king, but I don't feel safe being king. And the reason he doesn't feel safe is because the witches prophesied that Banquo's sons would be king, whereas Macbeth's sons would not. And so he has this whole fear that he committed murder, that he did this horrible deed, all for Banquo's sons. And he says, this can't happen. I have to do something about this. I've made my future and my chance of getting to heaven, I've ruined all of that for nothing because I have no son. And so he is very upset and very stressed out about this situation. And in the soliloquy, he also states that Banquo is the only person he fears because of this reason, that his sons will be king. So after this soliloquy, a servant tells him that there are some men to see him, and these men are murderers. So we learn here that Macbeth has hired these people to come in, these murderers to come in and follow Banquo and his son Fleance on their ride. And he's saying, you have to kill him. And the way that he does that is he's convinced them that everything bad that has happened to these murderers, so these murderers have experienced, I don't know, maybe their crops failed or some of their children were murdered or something along those lines. We're never really clear about that. But he says, Banquo caused it. And if you want revenge, if you want to make your life better, you have to kill Banquo. He tells the murderers that it wasn't Macbeth himself that caused their pain, that it was Banquo. And to right these wrongs, Banquo has to be murdered. We also have a reference to the theme of what is manliness, what makes a man. Macbeth calls them out and says, are you actually men? And they say, yes, we are men. And he makes reference to the fact that they could be men, but they're not like strong, powerful men. He makes an analogy between dogs. There are more powerful breeds of dogs, and then there are weak little breeds of dogs. And so he's kind of connecting the two. Are you a powerful man, like a powerful dog, something that could kill other people, or are you a weak little chihuahua? That's the kind of analogy that he's making there. The murderers say, yeah, we've been kicked around, but we're ready to do this. And he says, all right, off you go. I hate him. Kill Banquo. Everything will be great. And that's how scene 1 ends, with the plan for murder for Banquo. Okay. Scene 2, Lady Macbeth is curious where Lord Banquo has gone. And Macbeth comes in. So this is really important because it tells us that Lady Macbeth doesn't actually know what Macbeth's plan is here. Remember in Act 1, I stated that Lady Macbeth and Macbeth are very close. They are best friends. They are each other's dream partner. They have always shared everything with one another. When Macbeth saw the witches, he instantly sent a letter home to his wife saying, "This is what's happening." This is different now because Macbeth has made this plan to kill Banquo without talking to his dearest partner. Their relationship is crumbling, and we can see that in this scene where he hints at what he's planned to do, but he doesn't outright tell Lady Macbeth what the plan is. And that's, again, very different, right? Like, they had planned together to kill the king. Now Macbeth is taking matters into his own hands. In this scene, we can see that Macbeth is very frazzled. He is freaking out, and Lady Macbeth is kind of like, okay, like, calm down, just be peaceful. Sleek order your rugged looks, be bright and jovial among your guests tonight. She's telling him that he needs to calm down and stop freaking out so that people don't know what has happened. But Macbeth is just too stressed out about the fact that he is put his soul at danger for Banquo's sons. And that's basically what this whole scene is about. He ends the scene with, again, hiding the fact from Lady Macbeth that he is planning to kill Banquo. Be innocent of the knowledge, dearest Chuck, till thou applaud the deed. So I'm not going to tell you what has happened until it has actually happened. Scene 3 has us seeing the murderers. They're waiting in the dark, waiting for Banquo and Fleance to come back from their ride. Banquo and Fleance show up, and the murderers descend upon them. They kill Banquo, and Banquo yells at his son, "Oh, treachery! Fly, good Fleance, fly, fly, fly!" And then he wants him to get revenge for this murder. Fleance runs away, and the murderers are like, whoa, it's all of a sudden dark, what happened? And they're like, well, we only accomplished half of what we were supposed to do. We killed Banquo, but, you know, Fleance is still out there, but I guess that's okay. And I just have a quick question. Do you think that Macbeth is going to be happy that Banquo's son, Fleance, is still alive? Well, the answer is no, because who is he worried is going to take the throne? He's not worried that Banquo is going to take the throne. He's worried that Banquo's sons are going to take the throne. So this whole plot to kill Banquo and his son Fleance has been foiled because the murderers were unable to do the most basic thing that needed to get done, kill the son. So they have to go back and tell Macbeth what has happened. All right, so scene 4 is really interesting. I've put some videos up online that show you different interpretations of this. But yeah, it's really fun. So they are having their banquet to celebrate Macbeth becoming king. He is, you know, carousing around, saying hello, how's it going? Tells them to sit down, but he is planning to mingle among them and just be a really excited time for him to have become king. He sees the murderers come in, and he goes to talk to them, and he says, "Oh, good, I see that there's blood on your face, must be Banquo's, you've done what I asked you to." And they said, "Yes, we've killed him, but Fleance has gotten away." And Macbeth was like, "Okay, so I was peaceful for maybe 2 seconds when you said Banquo was dead, and I thought that all my problems are gone, but now you're telling me Fleance has escaped? Well, now everything that I was afraid of is still there, because like I said before, the son is what needs to be gotten rid of." He calms himself a little bit by saying, okay, well, Fleance is just a kid. I guess I don't have to worry about it too much. The quote he says, "Thanks for that. There the grown serpent lies." So the snake here, this serpent, is Banquo. "The worm that's fled hath nature that in time will venom breed. No teeth for the present. Get thee gone." So here he's saying, okay, so this little baby worm doesn't have any fangs. He can't harm me right now. I guess I'll be all right. I should be happy that Banquo is dead. Which also, like, just really sad, because Banquo was his best friend. They fought in so many battles together, and then just because he wants to be king and he has this ambition, he's been overtaken by these horrible thoughts, and he just went out and killed his best friend. Like, it's just shocking, I think, like, how the fall from being such this great, courageous warrior and had all these good virtues just instantly changes, and that now he's killing his best friend. So Good job, Macbeth. So here, Macbeth has gone off. He's talking to the murderers. They've told him all this story. Lady Macbeth finds him hiding in like a corner, and she's like, dude, you are supposed to be at a party. I don't know what you're doing, hiding in this shadowy corner. Come talk to your guests. And Macbeth's like, oh yeah, okay, I'm supposed to be having a party. I guess I'll go back. And so he comes out to the banquet, and his guests say, hey, come sit with me. Come sit down. Come enjoy this time with me. And he says, well, where? Like, where do you want me to sit? There's no empty spaces. And the lords are like, dude, there's an empty spot right beside me. Like, you could sit here. But the problem is that Banquo's ghost has shown up. So we talked a little bit about witches and ghosts and everything. And so in Shakespearean times, people did believe in ghosts. They believed that they could haunt you if you had done something bad. So this ghost is there. Don't think that it's a hallucination. It's not like that dagger. This is actually happening. Banquo's ghost has shown up at the banquet. He's sitting in the space where Macbeth was wanting to sit, and only Macbeth can see him because it's haunting specifically him. So Macbeth says, well, I can't sit down. There's no space for me. And then he realizes what is taking this space. It is Banquo's ghost, and he's covered in blood. And he's like, who has done this? Who is causing this horrible joke? This is awful. Why are you doing this to me? And everybody else is like, there's nothing there. Like, just sit down. But he can see that that ghost is there, and that ghost is taunting him, saying, you did this to me. You have turned into this horrendous human that kills their best friend, and I'm going to haunt you now. And that is kind of this whole scene where Macbeth is saying, I can see this ghost, but nobody else can see it. The other lords think, okay, well, maybe we should, like, give him some time to himself. Maybe we should leave. And Lady Macbeth comes in and she says, oh, no, just stay. Like, you need to stay, be part of this banquet. Macbeth has always been like this. He's just a little bit crazy a little bit. So just ignore his outbursts. Like, he's had these fits since he's a child. They'll go away. Everything will turn to normal. And the nobles are kind of like, okay, cool. So now we have a king who sees things, but this is normal. I guess we just continue on. Lady Macbeth grabs him and says, hey, like, what are you doing? You are ruining everything. And he's still just like, no, there's a ghost. It's there. How can you not see this and not be freaking out? And she's like, you need to man up. Like, stop what you're doing. Sit down, entertain your guests. And he's just, I am a man. How I am so brave to be able to look onto this horrible thing, this awful, awful ghost. Nobody else can see it. I'm the brave one here. And so he just kind of talks a lot about that, about how he sees him, and that is what he has to deal with, because he's going to have to own up to this. Well, not own up to it. He's going to have to own it. He's going to have to admit that he sees this ghost to himself, not to anybody else. He doesn't have to admit it. But yeah, he's just like, okay, this is what I'm doing with. The ghost disappears and reappears a few times. Macbeth plays into the game saying he's always been like this, but by the end of the scene, the mood has been ruined. People don't want to see their king freaking out over nothing. So Lady Macbeth says, all right, guys, like, go on. Like, Macbeth is just, he is not himself right now. So you are excused, and I will deal with this. Once everyone has left, Lady Macbeth and Macbeth have a chance to talk. He says, it will have blood, they say. Blood will have blood. So he's alluding to the fact that what he has done, they won't be able to get away with it. They then begin to talk about Macduff. So remember at the end of Act 2, Ross and Macduff had said that Macduff was not coming to the coronation. Macbeth now sees this as an insult to him. And he says that he refused to come here even though I commanded him to be here. And so he thinks, now this is a bad thing. How come Macduff is not coming here? I should not trust Macduff. So he just killed Banquo, the guy he shouldn't have trusted. And you would think that that would maybe make him feel more calm. But now he's like, no, Macduff is the person I need to be watching for. So this scene ends with Macbeth deciding to go see the witches tomorrow and promising that anything that he's going to think of, he will do it immediately. And so we will do scene 5 and scene 6 right away.